Hi guys, I'm Erica of Erica's Joyful Oven, and today we're making puff pastry dough that makes the most buttery, light and flaky pastries. Let's begin. To a mixing bowl, add 2 2/3 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter at room temperature, 2/3 cups of cool water, and 2 teaspoons of lemon juice or white vinegar. So using your hands, knead the dough until it comes together. And because of all of the butter and the vinegar that we've added, the dough is actually going to be quite silky. Once the dough comes together, turn it onto a lightly floured surface and continue kneading by hand for another 2 to 3 minutes. So I really wanted to show you how easy it is to make this dough by hand, but I usually make the dough in the bowl of a stand mixer fitted with the dough hook attachment. So if you wanted to use a stand mixer, add all of your ingredients to the bowl and mix on a low speed for 3 to 4 minutes. Now again, because of the butter that we've added, this dough is very rich. It's not very sticky, so there's no need to add extra dried flour. And the vinegar that we've added is going to break down the gluten, and so our dough is going to remain soft despite all of the kneading. So once the dough is ready, I'm going to shape it into a 7-inch square. Wrap it tightly in plastic wrap and place it in the refrigerator for at least 1 hour or maybe 2 hours until it's nice and firm. And this is the first of 2 parts of our pastry dough. So a puff pastry dough using the French method has 2 parts. The first part we've just finished is the dough, also known as the Détrempe, and the second part is the butter layer, also known as the Beurrage. So in a bowl I have 2 cups of softened unsalted butter. And to this, I'm going to add 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour and mix this together until it's well combined. This is one of the recipes where you definitely need to use unsalted butter. If you were to use margarine, the pastry would be more greasy, and if you used salted butter, the pastry would be more difficult to handle. Adding flour to the unsalted butter makes the Beurrage more pliable, and it makes the pastry dough easier to handle. Next, we need to shape this butter into a 7-inch square. I find this is best done when I fold wax paper to create a 7-inch envelope, or you can also use a 7-inch square pan that is lined with plastic wrap or wax paper. Place the butter back into the refrigerator for a half hour until it's the same consistency as the dough. So now we've reached the lamination stage. And I'm going to firstly roll the Beurrage into a rectangle roughly 20 inches by 10 inches. Add a very generous amount of dried flour, and this is going to help you easily roll the butter out. I know it sounds a little bit crazy that I'm rolling out butter, but I promise you this method works the best. It gives you the best puff pastry. Once the Beurrage has been rolled out, I'm going to place the Détrempe in the middle and fold the Beurrage over to completely cover it. So now I'm going to add a very generous dusting of flour, and I'm going to again roll this to a rectangle roughly 16 inches by 8 inches. The first 2 rolls tend to be very messy, but after that it gets a lot easier and a lot less messy. Next, we're going to visually divide the dough into 3 sections and fold each end over the middle to create a trifold, and this is the first of 5 folds that we're going to do. Typically you can get 2 folds at a time before overworking the dough, and so as long as the dough stays nice and chill, I'm going to roll again to 16 by 8 inches and do a second trifold. So this is our second fold, and I'm going to wrap the dough tightly in plastic wrap and refrigerate it for at least 2 hours until it's nice and firm. After refrigerating the dough, I'm going to repeat a double fold followed by another resting in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours, and then a single fold. If at any time you find the dough is getting too soft and difficult to work with, simply stick it back into the refrigerator tightly wrapped in plastic wrap until the dough is nice and firm before you continue to work. Another important tip is that with each roll, you want to rotate the dough 90 degrees so that the butter is evenly pushed to all sides of the dough and not just in one direction. I'm currently on the 4th fold, and as you can see, the dough is much more manageable and less messy at this point. And at this stage, the dough already has at least 200 layers. And I'm going to again wrap this in plastic wrap and place it in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours before I do the final fold. So this is the 5th and final fold. You can see I've rotated the dough 90 degrees, and at this stage the dough is so much easier to handle and it takes minimal dried flour. I am being very careful not to damage any of those delicate layers as I roll. Once you've completed the final tri-fold, wrap the pastry dough very tightly in plastic wrap and place it in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours before it's ready to be used to make all of your favorite pastries. So this recipe makes roughly 3 pounds of puff pastry dough, and you can see all of those delicate layers. This is really exciting. This dough keeps well in the refrigerator for up to 3 days or in the freezer for up to a month. You can package it in blocks or roll it into pastry sheets and layer it between sheets of wax paper. During storage, you always want to keep your pastry dough wrapped tightly in plastic wrap or a freezer bag so that you keep out moisture and prevent the dough from becoming dry. I have waited long enough and I'm so excited for some good pastry. So I've rolled out 1 pound of pastry dough, cutting the edges off to expose all of those delicate layers. I'm going to wrap some sausages to make some sausage rolls or pigs in a blanket. And you can make these special by adding some cream cheese, chili flakes and basil flakes. Arrange all of the pastries onto a baking tray lined with parchment paper or a silicone mat, or you can lightly grease the pan. And I'm using an egg wash to seal the edges of the pastry, and brush the top of the pastry with the egg wash to give you a beautiful brown color as the pastry bakes. Bake the pastry in a preheated oven at 375 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes until they are golden brown. This puff pastry is so buttery, light and flaky. I do hope you guys try this recipe. You can check out my new website, joyfuloven.com, and be sure to like and subscribe to Erica's Joyful Oven on Facebook and YouTube for more amazing recipes.